We're going to focus on the second reading today. We haven't done that in a while, and to be honest, we really need to focus on the gospel from next week right up until Easter. So today's a pretty good opportunity to spend a little time with Paul. And what we heard from Paul in the second reading was that we are not made holy by our own efforts. We're made holy by God's design, made manifest in Christ Jesus. So this is definitely worthy of our attention. We are not made holy by our efforts. Holiness is something we're supposed to be. It is a state of being that we're supposed to have from the beginning, which means that if we lack holiness in our lives, well, then something is off within us. Something is missing. It's a little bit like being a professional athlete. Let's say a runner, for the sake of simplicity. A runner is at their most alive when they're running. Okay? Fair enough. Well, imagine what it would be like for them if they were confined to their home for several days because of something like a snowstorm. We all know that can happen from time to time, right? So they're cooped up in their place. They can't exercise. They can't really do anything physical. I'll bet they start going crazy after about the end of the second day. As a result of something vital being taken away from their lives. And I'll tell you this, as a priest, it feels weird to go 3 days without celebrating a Mass. Because my place is in front of the altar. That is where I'm meant to be. I am made for that place more so than any other particular location. And if I go too long without it, I feel that absence. So maybe some of you right now know when and where you are the most yourselves in life. And I only hope that your answer isn't in front of the TV. That's be a disappointing answer, all I can say. It's like that with holiness. Holiness isn't really this state of excellence that we're meant to strive for constantly. It's the place we're supposed to be at from the start. It's being the people we're always meant to be with the help of God. So that means that holiness is not something that's reserved only for saints. We are all called to holiness, and the way you get there is no great mystery. I say it all starts with gratitude. Gratitude toward God, gratitude for the gift of life, and gratitude for the loving and good people around you. I would go so far as to say that if you have all three of those gratitudes in your heart, it's not possible not to be holy. And if you think about it, just about everything we do in the name of our faith is an expression of that gratitude. Coming to church on Sunday, even when you're tired because it's daylight savings day, coming to church is gratitude toward God. That's why we do this. And standing up for what's right, resisting what's wrong, well, in a roundabout way, I'd say that's gratitude for other people. Because we know that some people need to be protected and defended, and some people need to be corrected and guided. If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. If you are grateful for your kids, you will care for them and provide for them as an act of love. But it's every bit an act of love when you have to correct them and discipline them. That's part of being an adult. That's part of being a parent. And that is born of gratitude as well. If you are ungrateful for your children, that doesn't lead to greater discipline. It leads to apathy and an anything-goes attitude. Do whatever you want, kid. Ingratitude and indifference are never very far apart. So once again, I say, it's all about gratitude. Everything we do is an expression of gratitude. And that is the basis for holiness. On that note, I'd like to wrap up with a little something I heard from a professor back in seminary. So one day in class, we were talking about news trends. I don't remember why we were talking about that in the first place, but Dr. Shippey made an excellent point on human nature and all of that. So the question was, why do we focus and fixate on bad news? Crime and disasters and all of that. I mean, it's a complicated issue, of course. I certainly think bad news is more interesting. That's got to be a factor. But what Dr. Shippey's point was, and I don't think we think about this enough, we fixate on bad news because we know that it's not the norm. It's the exception. When some guy steals a purse from a harmless grandma on the street, that's not normal. That's not normal. Normal is people going about their business respecting the personal property of others. That's normal. That happens every single day for the vast majority of people. That's not news. That's life. For the same point, one of my friends, he's a police officer in Washington County, and he hates it whenever police brutality or anything like that, makes the news. Understandable, I'd feel the same way if I was a police officer. And he said, I would just love it one day if we could see a headline, "Thousands of police unite to keep the streets of America safe." What they do every day. And while I certainly agree that we should respect and honor the police for what they do, that's not news. It's not news. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's harmony. That's us working together for the common good of all. That is definitely the way it's supposed to be. That's us being the us that God desires. So once again, I say, holiness is not a state beyond the norm. Holiness is the norm if we live our lives right. And that's really the point that Paul was making in the second reading, that we're not made holy by our efforts. We are holy by God's design. He has made us holy since before we were born, and Christ is here to show us the way.